started with a laugh. Not a loud one. Just a breath of amusement. A twitch at the corner of Judge Beatrix Thornwald's lips as she glanced up from her notes and saw him, Elon Musk, tech billionaire, standing alone before her courtroom bench. With no legal team in sight, no Armani-clad attorney, no silver-tongued spokesperson. Just the man himself. In 30 years on the federal bench, Judge Thornwald had presided over trials involving movie stars, politicians, and every flavor of corporate executive. But none, she thought, quite as ridiculous as this. A man with an empire of electric cars, space rockets, and neural chips, trying to represent himself in a high-stakes patent infringement case. "Mr. Musk," she said, her voice sharp and surgical, "my records show you've chosen to represent yourself. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," the gallery rustled. Law clerks, junior lawyers, journalists, like a field of dry leaves hit by a sudden gust. Even the stenographer glanced, not out of disrespect, out of disbelief. Judge Thornwald leaned back slightly. Bold choice. The opposing counsel, Dominic Reeves of Magnetech Industries, allowed himself a thin smile. His bespoke suit shimmered under the fluorescence. He didn't need to smirk. His eyes did the work. Cold. Certain. This would be quick. Let's not waste time. Opening statements. He gestured toward Reeves. "Plaintiff's table, you may begin." Dominic Reeves rose with the poise of a man used to controlling rooms. "Your Honor," he said, "this case is clear-cut. Magnetech Industries holds the patent for a groundbreaking battery innovation. Mr. Musk's company, without permission or acknowledgement, copied our design. We have timelines, documentation, a fully operational prototype." Judge Thornwald nodded, expression neutral but expectant. "Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Musk, your turn." Elon stepped forward slowly, almost hesitantly. He wore a dark suit, no tie, no briefcase. Just a handful of wrinkled pages folded in half and stuffed into his jacket pocket. As he reached the podium, one sheet fluttered to the floor. He bent. To pick it up, someone snorted. Thank you, Your Honor," he began, voice softer than expected. "We're here today because Magnetech is trying to claim ownership of something my team developed, independently, innovatively." He shuffled his papers, glanced at one, flipped it over, seemed to lose his place. "The design in question uses a specific type of nano coating that increases charge capacity. I think I have a diagram somewhere." He patted his pockets. Reeves leaned back in his chair, enjoying every second. A chuckle rippled through the gallery. Even the bailiff cracked a grin. Judge Thornwald tapped her gavel once. "Mr. Musk, this is a court of law, not a test launch. Do you have your materials in order?" "I think so, Your Honor." "You think so?" Another wave of laughter. Lighter this time, like no one wanted to be rude. But it was just too good. Dominic Reeves didn't need to speak. His glance said, "It all. This is the guy." Seriously. From the third row, a young woman watched with growing unease. Lila Chen, Musk's lead engineer, sat twisting her fingers in her lap. She had seen him at his best. Focused, visionary, ruthless. This version, nervous, disheveled, distracted, was not the man who led revolutions in energy and aerospace. Judge Thornwald sighed. "Mr. Musk, patent law is highly technical. Are you sure you want to proceed without counsel?" "I'll manage." "Your Honor." A beat passed. Thornwald studied him. A part of her admired the hubris, another part pitied the inevitable downfall. "Very well," she said. "Magnetech, please present your evidence." 3 assistants wheeled in labeled boxes. Reeves clicked a remote, bringing up a sleek digital display. "This," he said confidently, "is our patent, filed March 15th. And here," he clicked again, "is Musk Innovations' public announcement just weeks later. Identical design. Identical language." The judge watched, lips pressed tight. Elon scribbled a note on a legal pad. No one saw what it said. He looked up, watching the screen, not reacting, not yet. Judge Thornwald narrowed her eyes. Something about his expression. It wasn't confused. It wasn't even defensive. It was Calculating. She dismissed the thought. He was clearly in over his head, but the gallery whispered. Reporters took notes. Online, headlines had already begun forming. Elon Musk representing himself in court. Train wreck or genius move. Magnetech versus Musk. David and Goliath in reverse. And beneath the courtroom buzz, behind the laughter and the smirks, something quiet was beginning to shift. Because no one, not the judge, not Reeves, not even Lila, had yet asked the most important question. What if this entire performance was part of the plan? 6 months earlier. The lab hummed with energy, both literal and metaphorical. Clean white floors reflected sterile light from overhead, and rows of cutting-edge equipment buzzed quietly. It was the kind of place where the future felt close enough to touch. At a steel workbench, Elon Musk leaned over a device no larger than a shoebox. His face was set in concentration, the kind that made people uncomfortable to interrupt. Beside him, Lila Chen tapped rapidly on a touchscreen tablet, tracking. Voltage output in real time. Run it again, Musk said, eyes locked on the prototype. Lila complied. The device shimmered faintly at its edges, a pulse of electric blue tracing the casing. Power output holding at 98.4% efficiency, she said. Her voice trembled slightly. That's 3 times the industry standard. Musk didn't smile. He rarely did when the stakes were high. But there was a glint in his eye, the flicker of a storm about to break. If this scales, he said, barely above a whisper, we'll power a city block with something that fits in a backpack. Before the moment could settle, Musk's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and frowned. Victor Hammond is here. Lila froze. Magnetech? Musk nodded. Wants to talk partnership. That's dangerous, she said. They've been caught stealing IP before. I know. Musk grabbed a clean lab coat off the hook. Cover everything. I'll handle him. Victor Hammond arrived looking like he owned the building. Tall, tanned, perfectly coiffed. His handshake was firm to the point of domination, and his smile held a predator's polish. Elon, thanks for taking the time, he boomed, flanked by 2 assistants armed with tablets. What can I do for you, Victor? Musk asked, cutting through pleasantries. I'll get right to it. Magnetech wants in. You've got the spark, we've got the scale. Let's build the future together. Musk tilted his head. You want a tour first, don't you? Just a peek. Get a feel for your process. Musk hesitated, then nodded. Brief. Some areas are off limits. Of course, Hammond said quickly. As they moved through the facility, Musk's eyes stayed on Hammond, not the equipment. He watched how the CEO's gaze lingered too long on sensitive workstations. He noticed how one of the assistants tilted a tablet at odd angles. Snap. There it was, a photo. They passed the testing chamber. Musk didn't stop. That area's restricted. Understood, Hammond said. But Musk caught the disappointment flicker across his face. At the exit, Hammond extended his hand again. You're sitting on gold, Elon. Let's strike it together. Musk shook it coldly. I'll think about it. As soon as the door shut behind them, Musk turned to his head of security. I want every second of footage from that visit. High res, every hallway, every lab window, especially Hammond's team. Right away, sir. That night, Musk sat alone in his office, playback screens casting shadows across the walls. There it was. Hammond's assistant leaning casually against a wall while secretly snapping a picture of a workstation. Another angle. Hammond peering into the restricted lab, eyes narrowing as he took in the blurred silhouettes of unreleased tech. Musk paused the video. His face didn't show anger, just a grim inevitability. I knew it. He opened a blank document on his screen. At the top, he typed a single word, contingency. Then he began to write. A plan was forming, not in reaction but in preparation. He wasn't going to fight fire with fire. He was going to make them light the match, and when they did, he'd be waiting. 2 months passed. The headlines dropped like silent bombs. Magnetech files patent for revolutionary battery design. Lila Chen stormed into Elon Musk's office, the printout still warm from the printer, her expression pale with fury. She slammed. Down on his desk. They filed it. Elon. They filed a patent on our design. Musk didn't flinch. He looked at the document, skimmed the top few lines, then leaned back in his chair, as if he'd just confirmed something he already suspected. You don't look surprised, Lila said, narrowing her eyes. I'm not. They stole our nano-coating structure. It's the exact same layering system. The same ion treatment, the same charge retention profile. They even mimic the casing structure, and they're trying to pass it off as their own. I know. You know. Then why aren't we doing something about it? Musk turned his chair slightly, gazing out the office window. The city buzzed below, unaware of the quiet war erupting in this room. Because the moment we do something obvious, he said calmly, we're playing their game. They want us to throw lawyers at this, to panic, to settle. That's what they're built for, legal warfare. Then what's your plan? He turned back to face her. I'm going to court. Good. I'll call legal and… No, I'm going to court, personally. Lila blinked. What? I'll represent myself. You're not serious. Musk nodded slowly. Dead serious. Lila stared at him for a long second. Elon, you're not a lawyer. This isn't a TED Talk. This is federal court. I've already started studying. You started studying? He pulled open the drawer of his desk and revealed a small stack of annotated legal textbooks. Patent law, litigation procedure, rules of evidence. The margins were covered in handwritten notes, diagrams, citations. I've been preparing for this since the day Hammond walked into our lab. Lila sat down across from him, stunned. So that whole polite tour, that I'll think about it routine, you knew they'd steal it? I knew the moment I saw the glint in his eye. He wasn't curious, he was casing the place. She folded her arms, trying to process it all. So why not just call them out right away? Because I needed them to commit, to get confident, to file the patent. Now we have a paper trail, we have timing, we have proof. Lila shook her head, half in awe, half in frustration. You set them up. I gave them a choice, Musk said, steepling his fingers. They chose to steal. Now they've put their name on it, and I'll walk into that courtroom and dismantle them piece by piece. But alone, she asked. Even with the law on your side, Hammond's going to bring the best legal team money can buy. He'll bury you in motions and jargon. Musk stood up and walked to the whiteboard along the far wall. He wiped it clean, then wrote in thick black marker, Don't fight where they're strong. Make them fight where they're blind. He underlined it. This isn't about arguing better. It's about seeing better. Lila looked at him, searching his face for doubt. Are you sure about this? No, he admitted. But I'm sure about one thing. If I let this go unanswered, they'll do it again. To us, to others, to anyone with a better idea and fewer resources. Silence filled the room. Outside, the city moved on. But inside this office, war was already underway. Finally, Lila spoke. Then I'll help, whatever you need. Musk smiled, just barely. We're going to need everything. Diagrams, notes, lab data, time-stamped files, internal memos, access logs, and surveillance footage. All of it cataloged, clean, court-ready. I'm on it. As she left the office, he opened a folder on his desk. Inside, outlines for trial arguments, strategy diagrams, and one scribbled phrase in bold red ink. Let them laugh. It's part of the plan. The nights blurred together. In the dim, sterile glow of his office, Elon Musk sat hunched over a stack of case law, eyes red from screen glare, fingers ink-stained from scribbling in margins. Legal pads piled up like blueprints, not of machines, but of momentum. While the world outside whispered about his downfall, Musk was orchestrating its reversal. Every evening ended the same way. Lila Chen, standing in the doorway with a takeaway box in one hand and a worried look in the other. You haven't slept. I've closed my eyes a few times, he replied without looking up. This isn't sustainable. It doesn't have to be sustainable. It just has to hold through trial. She watched him scribble a cross-reference between a deposition precedent and a statute clause. Elon, Are you doing this to prove you're smarter than Hammond or because you actually think you can win? He looked up, expression unreadable. Both. Word of his decision spread quickly. One of the richest men alive, choosing to face down a courtroom alone. No legal team, no firm behind him. Just pages, purpose, and stubborn silence. To the media, it was arrogance. To the lawyers, insanity. To Musk, it was strategy. You heard he's going solo, right? Reeves said to a colleague over dinner. Man thinks he can outlawyer me with a Wikipedia account. Even Judge Thornwald had chuckled privately. Let him try, she said to her clerk. We'll call it educational. Day 1 of the trial. The courtroom buzzed before the gavel even struck. Musk arrived with no entourage, no fanfare, just a weathered briefcase and an expression that hovered between focus and fatigue. He sat alone at the defendant's table, flipping through dog-eared papers. Some pages were upside down. A pen cap dangled from his mouth. He dropped a binder when he tried to stand. A few snickers rippled through the gallery. Dominic Reeves strolled past, shooting a look of amused pity. Need a hand, Elon? Musk didn't respond. The judge entered. Court is now in session. Opening statements, she announced. Mr. Reeves, you may proceed. Reeves stood with confident poise, projecting practiced authority. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, this case is about theft, plain and simple. My client, Magnetech Industries, developed a revolutionary energy storage solution. And Elon Musk, without license or acknowledgement, recreated it and claimed it as his own. He clicked a remote. Slides appeared, patent filings, timelines, side-by-side diagrams. Theft, he repeated, dressed up as innovation. He sat down, satisfied. Judge Thornwald turned to Musk. Mr. Musk, your opening. Statement. Musk stood slowly. He shuffled his notes, dropped one, picked it up, reread a line, then another. I apologize, Your Honor. I'm new to this. Chuckles again. Even the court reporter cracked a smile. I'm here today, he continued, voice slightly shaky, because I believe what we created is unique. And I believe the truth will show that. But I'm not a lawyer, so please bear with me. He sat down abruptly. A murmur of disbelief passed through the courtroom. Judge Thornwald raised an eyebrow, as if thinking, this is going to be easier than expected. But Lila Chen, sitting behind him, saw something no one else did. A flicker, not panic, not confusion, precision. It was the same look Musk had when a rocket veered off course, and he knew exactly how it would land. That night, in the makeshift office across from the courthouse, Lila confronted him. Was that real? She asked. The shuffling, the nerves. You looked like you didn't know what courtroom you were in. Musk didn't answer immediately. He was assembling something small on the table, an electronic component connected to a microprocessor. I needed them relaxed, he finally said. Confident, sure that I was over my head. You're baiting them. Not baiting. Guiding. When they think you're weak, they let their guard down. That's when people tell you who they really are. She stepped forward, studying his face. So the trial has already started. It started the moment Hammond took that tour. He plugged in the device. A tiny LED pulsed to life. Tomorrow, he said, almost to himself, we give them what they expect again. Then we start taking it apart. Lila exhaled slowly. You know this might actually work, right? Musk looked up, eyes sharp. It will. By day 2 of the trial, the courtroom atmosphere had shifted from curiosity to certainty. Dominic Reeves strode to the front of the room with renewed confidence. His tailored suit looked sharper. His voice rang clearer. This was his home turf. Now, and he was about to close the door on what he believed was a delusional billionaire's publicity stunt. Your Honor, he said, we'd like to begin today's session by presenting our primary exhibit. 3 assistants wheeled in a sleek metal case the size of a small refrigerator. A hush fell over the courtroom. Reeves removed the cloth covering the prototype. This, he declared, is the physical result of years of research and millions in R&D from Magnetech Industries. The battery at the center of this case. Judge Thornwald leaned forward. We will show, Reeves continued, that this device was conceived, tested, and protected by patent well before Mr. Musk's company ever made their announcement. He clicked the remote. A screen behind him lit up with time-stamped internal documents, emails, CAD diagrams. For every point Musk's team had once developed in secrecy, Reeves had a sanitized, time-marked version in corporate lingo to match. Judge. Thornwald studied the evidence, nodding slightly. Musk sat silently, seemingly overwhelmed. He fumbled for a pen. He took notes on the back of an old receipt. Reeves shot a glance toward the jury. They were leaning in, engaged, believing. In addition, Reeves said, we'll present testimony from Magnetech's head of engineering and several technical experts, all of whom will confirm the originality of our design. He turned to the bench. With your permission, Your Honor, we'd like to call our first witness. Permission granted. As the witness took the stand, a seasoned engineer with glasses and a composed demeanor, Lila Chen clenched her fists. From the gallery, she could see the flow of momentum shifting. Everything about this case now felt weighted against them. Over the next 2 hours, Magnetech's witnesses built their story brick by brick. Plausible development processes, internal testing logs, staged email threads between departments. Musk barely objected. Once, when he did, the wording of his challenge was so awkward that Judge Thornwald had to walk him through the proper phrasing. Mr. Musk, she said, not unkindly, you might consider reviewing courtroom procedure overnight. A soft laugh circled the room, and then something changed. Lila stepped out into the hallway during a recess to get some air. She wasn't alone. Another woman had been sitting in the back of the courtroom all morning. Dark hair pulled into a tight braid, a laptop open on her knees, eyes sharp. Priya Nair? Lila asked tentatively. The woman looked up. There was a pause, like the air itself had thickened. You worked for Magnetech? Lila said. R&D. Used. To? Priya replied. Not anymore. Lila looked over her shoulder, then leaned in. Why are you here? Priya closed her laptop slowly. To see if he really goes through with it. If Musk actually tries to beat them on his own. Lila narrowed her eyes. Do you know something? Priya didn't answer immediately, but there was something in her stare. A quiet intensity. Oh, wait. They filed my research, she said finally. My team's work without credit, without consent. Lila's breath caught. They stole from you too. Priya nodded. I kept quiet. Until now. The door to the courtroom opened. Recess was over. Priya stepped back. If he needs me, I'll be in touch. And just like that, she disappeared into the hallway crowd. Lila returned to her seat, mind racing. Inside, Judge Thornwald addressed Musk. Mr. Musk, you'll have a chance to respond tomorrow. I suggest you prepare thoroughly. Musk looked up, pen poised. He smiled faintly. Yes, Your Honor. To everyone watching, it looked like a man trying to stay afloat. But to Lila, and maybe now to one unexpected ally, the tide was just starting to turn. Day 3. Judge Thornwald adjusted her robe and called the court to order. Her tone was brisk but not unkind. Mr. Musk, she said, you may now present your defense. Musk stood slowly, straightened his papers, and walked to the front of the courtroom. His energy was different today. Not frantic or confused, but composed. Your Honor, he said clearly, before I begin my formal argument, I'd like to call a witness. A new one. The courtroom stirred. Reeves was immediately on his feet. Objection. This witness wasn't disclosed in discovery. Musk didn't flinch. This individual came forward yesterday of their own volition after watching Magnetech's testimony. Judge Thornwald narrowed her eyes. Name? Priya Nair, former head of R&D at Magnetech, gasps. The name rippled through the courtroom like a dropped glass in a silent room. Reeves's mouth tightened. Hammond sat bolt upright. I'll allow it, Thornwald said after a pause. But I expect relevance, Mr. Musk. Absolutely, Your Honor. A side door opened. Priya entered. She looked smaller than she had in the hallway, but no less steady. As she took the oath and sat down, her gaze didn't waver. She looked directly at Judge Thornwald, then at the jury. Musk approached. The witness stand. Ms. Nair, can you state your former position at Magnetech? I was Director of Research and Development for 8 years. Why did you leave the company? Priya hesitated only a second. Because I was asked to do something illegal. The jury leaned in. Even Judge Thornwald visibly straightened. Could you elaborate? Musk asked. After Victor Hammond visited Musk Innovations for what he claimed was a partnership meeting, he held a closed-door meeting with senior R&D staff. He showed us images taken during that visit, photos of your lab, of proprietary materials, diagrams. He told us to reverse engineer everything we saw. And did you? I objected, Priya said. Repeatedly, I told him this was theft. He overruled me. My team was reassigned. Within 2 weeks, I was demoted. There was no noise in the courtroom, only the low hum of electricity and disbelief. Musk stepped back. No further questions at this time. Reeves didn't rise immediately. When he did, he looked pale. No questions, he said quickly. Musk turned to Judge Thornwald. Your Honor, I'd now like to submit video evidence. Proceed. The courtroom lights dimmed. Musk connected his laptop to the screen. Footage began to play, Hammond smiling, his assistant subtly angling a tablet. Freeze frame, a photo, being taken in a restricted zone. Another angle, Hammond peering through a narrow window into the sealed lab. Zoom in, his eyes fixed on a prototype. Back in real time, the gallery murmured. Someone audibly whispered, "That's not legal." Musk paused the footage. I'd like the court to note, he said calmly, that this occurred after Hammond was told these areas were off limits. The assistant's actions were unauthorized, and the resulting patent, he held up the Magnetech filing, came mere weeks after this visit. Judge Thornwald looked at Reeves. Mr. Reeves? The attorney swallowed. Your Honor, we dispute the context of this footage. Then you'll have a chance to explain it. But the tone had changed. For the first time since the trial began, the court wasn't laughing at Musk. It was listening. And that was the beginning of everything. When court resumed after a short recess, the room was quieter, tense. Even the reporters had stopped typing. Musk returned to the podium, opened a slim folder, and lifted a printed email into the air. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would now like to introduce additional supporting evidence. Internal correspondence dated and time-stamped between senior Magnetech executives. Judge Thornwald gestured. Proceed. Musk handed the documents to the clerk, who distributed copies to the bench and the plaintiff's counsel. This first email, Musk explained, was sent by Victor Hammond to his head of engineering the morning after his visit to our lab. It includes direct instructions to replicate what he calls the blue core design with nanolayers. He clicked the remote. The message appeared on the courtroom monitor, enlarged. Next to it, Musk displayed an image of the prototype his team had built weeks prior to Hammond's visit. The wording, the terminology, even the abbreviations used in the email matched internal notes from Musk Innovations, none of which had ever been made public. Judge Thornwald leaned in. And these were verified by a third party? Yes, Your Honor, Musk replied. All documents have been authenticated by an independent digital forensics team. Their signatures and chain of custody logs are included. From the plaintiff's table, Reeves was flipping through the packet with increasing desperation. Musk didn't wait. He advanced to the next slide, a side-by-side comparison of Magnetech's prototype versus his company's design. Identical. Architecture, same power matrix, same cooling channels. Only the casing had changed. This, Musk said, is not parallel innovation. It's duplication, down to the wiring schema. Gasps in the gallery. He turned to the jury. Independent teams do not produce identical designs, unless one of them saw it first. Then, almost casually, Musk reached for a final folder. One more item, Your Honor. A legal precedent. He approached the bench and handed over a printed statute. The Technological Innovation Protection Act of 2018, he said. Section 47B. Thornwald took it, adjusting her glasses. Musk continued, voice steady. It outlines a specific legal remedy. In the event of proven corporate espionage involving patented technology, the court may issue a development ban of up to 5 years for the offending party. This clause was passed as a late amendment after a similar theft occurred in the medical device industry. The courtroom froze. Judge Thornwald looked up slowly. I've never seen this invoked before, because it rarely applies, Musk said. But this case fits the criteria exactly. Reeves stood, sputtering. Your Honor, this is absurd. That statute is obscure and it's valid, Thornwald interrupted, her tone sharper now. And if this evidence holds, it's applicable. For the first time in 3 days, the confidence Reeves had worn like armor cracked. Hammond sat frozen, staring at the monitor. Musk returned to his table, stacked his papers with surgical precision. Silence reigned. Judge Thornwald tapped her pen against her desk. Slowly, deliberately. Well, she said finally, it appears. We're not dealing with a fool after all. No one laughed. The courtroom had shifted from spectacle to reckoning. Panic smells like aftershave and stale coffee. Dominic Reeves paced the plaintiff's table like a man searching for oxygen. His tie, once perfectly knotted, now hung slightly askew. Hammond, meanwhile, sat stone still, jaw tight, eyes glassy. He had seen 1,000 courtroom wins built on power and price tags. But this was a dismantling. In the gallery, phones buzzed with silent fury. Social media was already catching fire. Musk vs. Magnetech. Musk pulls legal masterstroke in. Court outsmarts top tech lawyers. Elon just used a law nobody knew about, and it might cost Magnetech everything. Clips of the email display and the side-by-side prototypes were being tweeted in real time, reposted by journalists, influencers, even rival tech CEOs who suddenly found a new respect, or fear, for the man who had once dropped a rocket booster on a floating barge, just to see if it could be done. By the time the courtroom recessed for lunch, the courthouse steps were crowded with cameras. Reporters elbowed each other for a shot of the man who had walked in looking like a fool and was walking out looking like a tactician. Back inside, Judge Thornwald remained unusually quiet. She reviewed the statute Musk had cited again and again, flipping the pages like a ticking metronome. She glanced across the room. Musk was calmly typing into a laptop. His demeanor hadn't changed. He wasn't gloating. He wasn't celebrating. He was, as always, calculating. Reeves tried to regroup. We need to file an emergency motion to dismiss the new evidence, he whispered to his associate. It won't work. The judge already ruled it admissible. Then we counterattack, Reeves snapped. Discredit the witness, attack Priya's motives, anything. But even as they schemed, the world outside was deciding its own verdict. Tech blogs wrote op-eds by the hour. Stock analysts adjusted projections. Magnetech's share price dropped 7% in a single morning. At Musk Innovations, employees crowded screens watching the live blog updates. Engineers who once questioned the boss's silence were now fist-bumping in the hallways. Lila Chen sat in their makeshift office across from the courthouse, watching it all unfold. He's shifting the tire industry, she whispered to herself. At that moment, Musk walked in. How's Hammond? Shell-shocked, she replied. Reeves looks like someone unplugged his soul. Musk gave the faintest smile. Good. He sat down beside her. Now we tighten the screws. More evidence. Not just evidence, Musk said. Context. I want the court to feel how deeply this impacts innovation. This wasn't just a theft. It was an attempted rewrite of history. Outside, the public had already started rewriting it back. From Reddit to CNBC, one phrase kept popping up. Elon Musk didn't need a lawyer because he was the argument. And in boardrooms across the valley, executives were making quiet calls to their legal departments, because if this man, this lone, sleepless, notebook-carrying disruptor, could bring a $40 billion giant to its knees, the next courtroom battle might not be about evidence. It might be about who controls the narrative. Court reconvened that afternoon under a silence thick enough to slice. Judge Beatrix Thornwald looked across the room. The gallery was full, reporters shoulder to shoulder, murmurs hushed. Reeves sat with arms crossed tightly, avoiding Hammond's furious stare. Musk, as ever, remained calm. He was not here to celebrate, he was here to conclude. Before we proceed, Thornwald began, I want to thank the parties for their patience. I've spent the recess reviewing the totality of evidence. Her eyes settled on Musk. And reviewing the statute you introduced, Mr. Musk. Section 47B of the Technological Innovation Protection Act is both real and relevant. Rare, but appropriate in this case. Reeves opened his mouth to object, but Thornwald held up a hand. I'm ruling now. The room stiffened. This court finds, based on documentation, testimony, forensic verification, and video evidence, that Magnetech Industries did not develop the energy storage technology it claimed. The patent is therefore declared invalid. A gasp, soft but collective. Furthermore, she continued, this court is imposing a 5-year development ban on Magnetech Industries regarding all energy storage solutions that overlap materially with Musk Innovations' proprietary designs. The air rushed from the room. Hammond slumped. Reeves leaned forward like he'd just been punched. This court is also referring evidence from this trial to the U.S. Attorney's Office for review. There are strong indications of corporate espionage, fraud, and potential perjury. Cameras clicked. Journalists scrambled. Judge Thornwald took a breath. Then something unexpected happened. She removed her glasses, folded them, and looked directly at Elon Musk. Mr. Musk, she said, when this trial began, I misjudged you. I assumed arrogance where there was intention. I saw chaos where there was strategy. That was my failure, not yours. The gallery froze. Your presentation was unconventional but surgical. You brought clarity to chaos, and you reminded this courtroom and this country that innovation does not belong to the loudest voice, but to those who build. Musk gave a single nod. No smile, just quiet acceptance. Thornwald turned to the room. This case is now closed. The gavel struck once, and with that, a new legal precedent was born, and the courtroom emptied into history. Outside, Musk stepped into a sea of microphones. Reporters shouted his name. Mr. Musk, what will you do next? He paused, looked past the crowd, and replied simply, get back to work. Then he walked away, not as a billionaire, not as a defendant, but as the man who redefined how justice is fought and how innovation is protected. 2 months later, a sleek black car pulled up to the security gate at Musk Innovations headquarters. The guard checked the ID card handed through the window, glanced up in surprise, and waved it through. Judge Beatrix Thornwald, retired officially, as of 4 weeks ago, stepped out of the car in a dark blazer, her signature silver hair pulled into a loose twist. The last time she'd walked into a building associated with Elon Musk, she had expected to preside over a crash. Now she wasn't sure what to expect at all. Lila Chen greeted her in the lobby with a warm smile. Judge Thornwald, she said, extending a hand. It's good to see you again. Please, the former judge replied, returning the handshake. It's just Beatrix now. Elon's waiting for you in the lab. He's excited about the tour. As they walked through bright corridors, past engineers and test stations humming with quiet intensity, Beatrix took in the atmosphere, the quiet purpose, the buzz of minds in motion. It was familiar, in a way that tugged at something long buried. They arrived at the lab. Musk stood near a workbench, dressed in his usual dark t-shirt and jeans, sleeves rolled, eyes on a data stream. Beatrix, he said, turning to her with a nod. Welcome. Thank you for the invitation, she replied. I admit, I'm curious. For more than a tour, I hope, Musk said, gesturing for her to follow. There's something I want to show you first. He led her to a corner of the lab where a prototype glowed faintly under LED lights. It's beautiful, Beatrix murmured. Elegant design. Musk smiled slightly. Efficiency meets integrity. They walked further into the innovation wing. where new battery systems were being pressure tested under simulated conditions. And as the tour wound down, Musk brought her to a quiet conference room with a view of the hills. Coffee waited on the table. So did a folder. Beatrix raised an eyebrow as he slid it toward her. "What's this?" "An offer," Musk said simply. "A consulting position, legal strategy and regulatory development. You'd work with our internal counsel, not to litigate, but to make sure we're building with foresight." She gave a short laugh. "I'm retired, Elon. You're not finished." Beatrix opened the folder slowly. The contract was generous. Compensation, autonomy, flexible scope. "I have to ask," she said quietly. "Why me?" Musk met her eyes. "Because I know who you were before the robe." Beatrix paused. "How?" "I do my homework. MIT, 1982. Your thesis on thermal ion regulation was 2 decades ahead of its time. You built a battery prototype that a company called Vertex Tech later patented as their own." Her face changed, softened, then hardened with memory. "I couldn't afford to fight them," she admitted. "So I changed careers." "And made sure it wouldn't happen to others," Musk added. She looked away. "I never told anyone that." "You didn't have to," he said. "I could see it on the bench that day. You knew what it felt like to be dismissed, to be stolen from." Silence filled the room for a moment, then Beatrix closed the folder. "You orchestrated that case not just to win, but to reach me, didn't you?" Musk didn't answer directly. Instead, he offered the faintest of smiles. "I believe in alignment. Technical, legal, human." Beatrix stood and walked to the window, gazing out at the team below. "You built this on principle," she said. "I underestimated that." "Many do," Musk replied. She turned back. "I'll need a few days to consider." "Of course. But either way, thank you. For seeing clearly when it mattered." She gave a nod, then extended her hand. This time there was no gavel between them. Just 2 people who had once stood on opposite sides of justice, now building something new. Together.